Hey everyone, it's Mr. Cinema Junkie here with my first installment in the 12 Days of Sodom STF Challenge. Today's country is Japan, and there is just so many from Japan. I mean, you could just spend all day just going through the titles of some of the nastiest stuff they have to offer. Um, Narrowed it down to two, and I have to give props to the first official Japanese STF for me. The one I first saw, the one that got me kind of interested in the more extreme stuff. I remember hearing about it through a customer at the video store I used to work at back in '94, and they went on and on about their professor seeing a real snuff film, and they described it to me, and I was like, "There's no way that could be real," but they went on and on about it like it was real. Finally tracked it down one day and realized it wasn't real, but the stories that surrounded this thing were astounding. And the movie I'm speaking of is Flowers of Flesh and Blood. It's part of the Guinea Pig series. There are 3 or 4 movies total in the Guinea Pig series that I'm really a fan of, but this one is the absolute king of all of them. Um, I've heard stories that it's based on an actual snuff film that the Tokyo police received, and that somebody saw it and recreated the whole thing. So it's supposed to be, the footage you see is fake, but it's recreated from actual footage. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That could just be part of the hype surrounding it. Another story that surrounds it is that back in '91, Charlie Sheen was at a party, or having a party, and somebody brought that movie by, and everyone was watching it, and he was under the impression that he was in the possession of an actual snuff film, and called the FBI. Oh, I'm sure he wasn't on anything to impair his judgment, not even a little bit. No, that's Charlie Sheen we're talking about. Come on. But it's basically a pseudo snuff film. A lady's being followed with a camera. She's captured. She's drugged enough not to feel pain, tied to a bed, and a guy dressed in old school samurai garb begins to dissect her piece by piece, starting at her wrists to her arms. And that's probably like the most realistic part of it, is when he goes down to like her arm to her shoulder area and cuts into her armpit. That makes me cringe a little bit. I'm like, oh, because it does look pretty real. A lot of people say it's the eye gouging scene. Not for me. Not for me. It's that arm cutting scene that gets to me. Uh, the guy recites haiku every once in a while. He'll say some little poem, and then he'll go on dissecting her, and he's adding her body parts to the garden in his house, hence the flowers of flesh and blood. So that one for me is the absolute king, because it's the one that introduced me to it. My other choice is actually a series called Death Files. Now, I've only owned 2 of those tapes, and it was Death Files Black and Death Files Red, I believe. There's also Yellow, Beginning, and I think one other one, Green, I think. I'm not really sure, it's been a while. But it's basically true death footage in the same vein as Traces of Death. Actual stuff from Asian countries, nothing from America. You got aborted fetuses found on the street, you've got suicides, you've got just all sorts of nastiness. And this is when I was first breaking into like actual death videos. A lot of people would say, "No, I'm not into the real stuff, man. Just keep it staged, keep it studio," and that's fine. But um, that's about as sick and twisted as you get as the real stuff. So that's my other choice of the Death File series. I almost went with Psycho Snuff Reels, which is an excellent movie, but it tends to take away its own credibility by digitally fogging the genitalia at some point. I remember seeing that. And if you're trying to pass yourself off as a real snuff film, the last thing you're going to worry about is digitally fogging genitalia to meet certain standards. in Japan. You're supposed to be an underground illegal snuff ring. You're not going to care if the lady's bush is showing on video, okay? So that's the only reason I didn't pick that one. I went with Death Files instead. So there you go. It's a brief synopsis on the two movies, Flowers of Flesh and Blood, and, well, not two movies. One is a series, like I said, Death Files from Japan. And I can't wait to see everybody else's responses. Come back tomorrow. I have another entry for you.